All right, so here I have two SanDisk memory cards. The one on the right is a 64 gigabyte Ultra SanDisk MicroSD XC card, and on the left is an extreme version of the card, but half the capacity. I got these both on sale on Prime Day, which was last week, and I'm really curious to see how much faster the Extreme card is versus the Ultra. You know, it says the GoPro recommends the Extreme cards as the black packaging here on the left, but I really just have to wonder. One says up to 90 megabytes a second, the other one says up to 80. That doesn't seem like a huge difference. So I'm really curious if it really matters if you say using this, one of the new GoPro Hero 4 Blacks with 4K, if you're using the regular cheaper Ultra card. I think the Ultra card, by the way, 64 gigabyte capacity was $14 or maybe it was $15, and the 32 gigabyte Extreme was about the same price. I think I can't honestly remember, but and on the back, the information here is very similar. The only difference is the funny thing is the Ultra card. That's the one on the right now, and it says Windows Phone right there. But the one on the left doesn't say that, so I guess you can't use it on a Windows phone. But anyways, otherwise, I think the warranty is infinite on this one. Infinity warranty, lifetime. The other one is just a 10-year, which honestly is as long as these things will last. In 10 years, we're not going to be using these cards anyways, so it really doesn't matter. So let's see how they perform. I'm going to use my Thinkpad laptop to do some testing. All right, so I've done the benchmarks. And if you look at these two graphs here, again, on the left is the MicroSD Extreme card, and on the right is the regular Ultra and the 64 gigabyte one at that. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice something interesting. I ran the test multiple times, and this happened every time. So whatever's causing this drop in performance is something inherent in the card, and it's while it's doing 32 kilobyte read and writes. But as you can see on the Extreme card, it's nice and, it ramps up, and then eventually the read and the write speed are different. The green is the read speed. But as you can see, the overall read, and I'll just tell you these numbers because you might not be able to read them. So the Extreme card hits about 85 megabytes a second read speed, and the maximum write speed is about 64, 65 megabytes a second. And that's when the red is pretty much over here. So it hits a limit at around the 64 kilobyte mark, and then it just stays there. And then the read speed accelerates a little bit, and it hits 85. That's pretty good. It's very consistent, and that's nice write performance. Now this is just random and this is sequential and not random. So obviously there'll be some differences with random, a lot slower. But on the regular Ultra card, this laptop was dimming there. As you can see, it also hits about 85 megabytes a second. That's the green here. So the read speed is roughly the same. And I'd say the Ultra card is ramping up a little more quickly. And this has this weird dip going on here. But essentially, it hits the same performance. But write speed is down around 48 megabytes a second, around here. That's what this part is. So there's this weird dip in the speed where it drops considerably down to 20 megabytes a second here, which is even slower than up there. But then, so you get slower write speed. So I'm actually surprised. I mean, there's a actual real difference between these two cards here. I don't think it necessarily matters because if the camera is writing with nice sequential data, which is what it's doing, 48 megabytes a second is pretty fast. I'm not sure 4K video uses that much even. I mean, let me think about how fast that is. 100 megabits a second video would take about 10 megabytes. So if the video bandwidth was 100 megabits per second, which I don't think it even is, you'd be using about 10 megabytes per second. So well within the limits of this card. So in other words, I really don't think you necessarily need the better card. Maybe it's a bit more reliable. I'm not going to figure that out in this testing. But there's definitely a performance difference. So if you're looking for as much performance as you can get, pay a little bit extra and get the Extreme card. Or it's the Extreme, right? And the Ultra. The names are confusing. That's just silly. But anyways, I'm going to try to find a random test now and see if there's a difference with that. Because flash memory, when it's single channel, which is most likely what this is, really stumbles on random performance. And that's where if you're going to use these in your phone, this sequential reading is not that important. It's really all about the random read-write performance. That's what you're going to be doing when you're accessing many small files, like if you're using it to store lots of pictures or music or whatever. That's a bit more random. So that matters more. I'm going to see what I can do. All right, so I did some more testing. This time I used Crystal DiskMark, and I ran 2 different benchmarks. And as before, I have the Extreme card here on the left, and on the right I have the Ultra card. So Extreme is the 32 gigabyte more expensive card, and this is the one that is the larger but cheaper card, both SanDisk brand. So as you can see, this is essentially sequential. The way the metrics work on here is we have sequential read, sequential write. This is with using 32Q, so I guess it's simultaneously writing 32 streams to the card versus a single stream, which is what these are. And then we have random 4K random read and writes, and read and writes, and this is using multiple streams. So with the 2 cards, the results here, one thing that's really interesting to see is that the Extreme card definitely has some serious read and write speed improvements, especially the writing speeds. Kind of is much faster than even that other benchmark I was running, the ATTO DiskMark. While this one, the read speeds definitely slow down versus this, but look how much slower the write speed is. But interesting is that the random speeds on this cheaper but larger card are faster. And that's substantial difference. So much so that if I was going to be using this in one of my cell phones, like in the SD card slot, maybe as adoptable storage where I was storing programs, I'd rather be using this card because yes, the full sequential speed's a little bit slower, but still very fast. But these random speeds are quite a bit faster, and that's a significant, speed increase here. Or even the single stream, 3.9 megs per second versus 6.1. It's not double the speed, but it's quite a bit fast. Now, write speeds are a lot closer here. There's a little bit of a difference, but again, this 64 gig card performs better in all tests. Now, I'm just going to say one thing. It's quite possible that the 64 gig version of the Extreme card, which is the more expensive one, maybe it has better random performance as well. I mean, maybe the read performance and the write performance is even better than the 32 gig card as well. So it's not exactly apples to apples here. We're not testing. I don't know the architecture of these cards. Maybe when you have 64 gigabytes, it's 2 32 gig chips, in parallel or what's happening. So, take this with a grain of salt. But at least with these 2 cards, the random performance is better on the cheaper card. But the read-write throughput is definitely faster on the Extreme. So, there you go. Which will I use in the GoPro cameras? I'm going to use the 64 gig card because I care more about capacity than really this performance difference. I am sure that 40 megabytes a second is more than enough to record the highest quality video on the camera. And it's definitely not doing random stuff, so that doesn't matter. So anyways, I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching. If you found it useful, give me a thumbs up. Bye.